Hello, and welcome to Beyond the Lights. I'm your host, Chris Sitek, and Week 9 had a meeting between GOATs, Old Blood and New Threads, and two NFC Titans that battled it out in the Big Easy. Let's start in San Francisco, where a battle of Bay bragging rights was on the line as Derek Carr and the Oakland Raiders were taking on Nick Mullins and the 49ers. And you, like me, and the rest of the universe were asking, who the heck is Nick Mullins? Well, Mr. Mullins introduced himself to the NFL by tearing the Raiders apart, passing for 262 yards and 3 touchdowns en route to a 34-3 beatdown by the Bay. Sunday started in Buffalo, where the Peter Man and the Bills were taking on Mitch Trubisky and the Bears. And oh my goodness, Chicago's defense came to play. 4 sacks, a pick 6, and a 65-yard fumble return paved the way to a 41-9 drubbing. Da Bears win. Patrick Mahomes and the Red Hot Chiefs were in Cleveland taking on Baker Mayfield and the Browns. And can you say Texas Tech and Oklahoma 2016 rematch? Well, not exactly. But a couple of Ohio natives had quite the homecoming. Elyria, Ohio native Kareem Hunt invited 200 of his close friends and family to watch him torch the hometown Browns at the tune of 151 total yards and 3 touchdowns. Cleveland Heights native Travis Kelce also had something to say, nabbing 99 yards and a score in the 37-21 dub. Down in Miami, Hard Rock Stadium was tore up from a week's worth of storms, and it showed as both the Dolphins and Jets struggled to keep traction. Miami, though, found its footing at home, sacking Sam Darnold 4 times and grabbing 4 picks, including a pick 6. The Fighting Broccolis win 13-6. Dalvin Cook and the Purple People Eaters were back in Minnesota, and they felt right back at home, sacking Matthew Stafford and the Detroit Lions 10 times en route to a 24-9 sledging. Cook's 109 total yards led the Vikings over their NFC North rival. Coming into Sunday, Washington's second-ranked defense was stellar against the run. This was not the case against the Falcons, as Atlanta totaled 154 yards behind Tevin Coleman's 88 and 2 scores. The ATL moves to 500 on the year with a 38-10 win. Here's a little-known fact. The Steelers and Ravens do not like each other very much, and their second meeting in Baltimore this season was no different. Vicious hits, trash talk, and creative plays all played their part, but the difference between a winner or a loss was the run game, as the Steelers outrushed Baltimore 113-61. The black and yellow, black and yellow, black and yellow get win number 5 on the season, beating the Ravens 23-16. Cam Newton and the Panthers were looking to keep pounding when Fitzmagic and the Bucks strolled into Carolina, and they moved to an impressive 5-0 at home, pounding in 4 touchdowns and a 42-28 win. Does anyone remember the Los Angeles Chargers? Anyone? Well, we need to discuss them, because Phillip Rivers and the boys have quietly been playing excellent football. They were in Seattle taking on Russell Wilson and the Seahawks, and the triple-headed threat of Rivers, 228 passing yards and 2 touchdowns, Melvin Gordon, 113 rushing yards and a touchdown, and Keenan Allen, 124 receiving yards with some timely red zone defense, allowed Los Angeles to win their 5th straight, 25-17. Demaryius Thomas was in Denver playing football, but he wasn't in a Broncos uniform. Instead, he was in the red and blue as a Houston Texan playing his former team, the Broncos, in Mile High. Thomas finished with 61 yards on 3 catches, and Houston finished with the victory off a shanked 51-yard field goal by Denver's Brandon McManus. Texans hold on 19-17. I gotta take a breather before this one. The game of the week was in New Orleans, where Drew Brees and the Saints were taking on Todd Gurley and the undefeated Rams, and it was like a flashback of the greatest show on turf for both teams. 80 total points, 1,000 total yards, and not a whole lot of punting, as Brees and the Saints marched on with a big 45-35 upset. Now, Brees and Michael Thomas had monster performances in dethroning the Rams, Breeze threaded the needle with 346 yards passing and 4 scores, and found his favorite target, Michael Thomas, early and often, catching 211 yards and a score in the Saints' biggest win of the season. LA, meanwhile, moves to 8-1. Sunday Night Football was in Foxborough as two of the best were set to square off. Tom Brady and the Patriots were taking on Aaron Rodgers and the Packers, and while the 2016 GOAT crowning belonged to Mr. Rodgers, this time, Mr. Brady took back his crown behind 294 yards passing and 1 touchdown. Game balls go out to Flash Gordon, who caught 5 balls for 130 yards and the go-ahead 72-yard touchdown, and James White, who finished with 103 yards and 2 touchdowns and a 31-17 victory. Monday Night Football was in Jerry's world, where Zeke Elliott and the Cowboys were taking on Marcus Mariota and the Titans. And the difference was the run game, as the Titans grounded and pounded 125 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns and a 28-14 upset in Big D. Week 9 starts in the Steel City as James Conner and the 5-2-1 Pittsburgh Steelers will be taking on Cam Newton and the 6-2 Carolina Panthers. Matthew Stafford and the 3-5 Detroit Lions look to regain their footing when they travel to the Windy City to take on Mitch Trubisky and the 5-3 Bears. Drew Brees and the 7-1 Saints will look to win their 8th in a row when they take on Andy Dalton and the 5-3 Bengals in Cincy. Matty Ice and the 4-4 Falcons are in Cleveland taking on Baker Mayfield and the 2-6-1 Browns. NFC South rivals will square off as Jalen Ramsey and the 3-5 Jaguars will take on Andrew Luck and the 3-5 Colts in Indianapolis. Pat Mahomes and the 8-1 Chiefs will look to stay hot as they host Josh Rosen and the 2-6 Cardinals in Kansas City. Touchdown Tommy and the 7-2 Patriots will be in Nashville taking on Marcus Mariota and the 4-4 Titans. AFC East rivals will square off in the NYC as Sam Darnold and the 3-6 Jets will take on the 2-7 Buffalo Bills. Adrian Peterson and the 5-3 Redskins will look to rebound in Tampa when they play Ryan Fitzmagic and the 3-5 Bucks. Phillip Rivers and the 6-2 Chargers will look to stay hot when they take on Derek Carr and the 1-7 Raiders in Oakland. Aaron Rodgers and the 3-4 Packers will look to rebound in Lambeau when they take on Brock Osweiler and the 5-4 Dolphins. Todd Gurley and the 8-1 Rams will be back in LA to take on Russell Wilson and the 4-4 Seahawks at home. Sunday Night Football is in the city of brotherly love, where Dak Prescott and the 3-5 Cowboys will look for their first road win when they take on Carson Wentz and the 4-4 Eagles in Philly. Monday Night Football is in San Francisco, where Nick Mullins and the 2-7 49ers will take on Eli Manning and the 1-7 Giants. And that is your episode of Beyond the Lights Week 9. I want to thank you so much for tuning in, and be sure to tune in next week for Beyond the Lights Week 10. I'm your host, Chris Sitek. Thank you, and goodbye.